New York woman finds a hidden hole in her apartment. When you are renting a small apartment, especially in New York, you don't expect to find something unexpected. After all, how can a 30M2 apartment surprise you? Well, that's what the protagonist of today's story thought, but it turns out that life is not as simple as it looks. You can get surprised from one minute to another. Some surprises are for good, and some are for bad. One thing is for sure though, all surprises are surprising. Samantha Hartsoe is the name of the girl that amazed us with her story. It is weird how this crazy thing seems to happen to the people that have a voice on the internet, but we are grateful that this was the case this time because we had the opportunity to hear about it and share it even more. If you haven't heard about Samantha, then you should know that she has a far-reaching voice. More than you might expect. Samantha has a TikTok account that is being followed by more than 600,000 people. That's right. 6 followed by 5 zeros. That is a lot of people. More than the population of many countries. So, when a person like Samantha says that she has an amazing story to share, you know that it is going to be good. After all, her followers have some expectations of her. This time she was going to give the people a 3-part story that was going to shock them. We find Samantha at her apartment talking to the camera. She starts by saying that even though the heating in the apartment is to the maximum, she is still feeling pretty chilly. There is no reason why this should be happening. The apartment has good insulation and all the doors and windows were shut. She decided that she couldn't stand it anymore, so she started exploring around the house. There must be a leak somewhere. After a bit of searching around, using this amazing instrument called skin, she realized that there is a draft of cold air coming from the bathroom. She thought this was quite weird since there was no vent in the bathroom. It was completely isolated. So it doesn't make sense that the air would be coming from the bathroom. But it was. After a bit of searching around, she realized that a bit of cold wind was coming from the lock of the bathroom. Her first reaction was to tape it up, who knows what else might come out from there. She thought that this might fix the problem, but as she was standing at the door of the bathroom, she kept feeling a cold draft. Actually, the draft was so strong that she showed her hair being blown by the cold draft in the apartment. She thought she was getting crazy. But she decided to explore more. There must be a logical explanation for that. Explanation yes, logical no. Behind the wall, there was a huge square-shaped hole. It wasn't the type of hole that maybe was done by a previous tenant and they used the mirror to cover it up. It was huge, a person could easily fit through there and make it to the other side. Samantha didn't know what to do. She didn't expect to find the door to Narnia behind her mirror. She decided to call some friends to make sure she wasn't getting crazy. Her friends arrived and she revealed to them the glorious hole behind the mirror. At first, they didn't understand what they were looking at. Their first thought was that it must be a hole for the lights of the mirror. It was the only thing that made sense. But Samantha corrected them. Upon closer inspection, they realized that this was no hole in the wires. There was something different on the back. They could see when they put their heads through the wall that there is a whole other room behind it. None of them could believe what they were seeing. Why would there be an entire room behind the mirror? Why would there be air coming from that room? None of it made sense. While they were looking around the hidden room, her friend John asked a simple question that terrified them. What if someone was living there? These 6 words sent chills down their spines. The room was definitely big enough for someone to live there, and there have been stories where people have found someone living in their apartment for long periods without them realizing anything. It was a scary thought, but Samantha had different plans in her mind. She wanted to explore since it wasn't just a simple room. It wasn't just a simple room. There seemed to be a door leading somewhere else. There was no way that Samantha was going to wait for someone else to explore this place. She wanted to find out what was going on right there and then. It was her apartment after all. It was time for her to take matters into her own hands. But there was something that she needed before getting in there. She was asking for the support of her friends. There was no way she was getting in there without knowing that they will be there waiting for her. It took some convincing, but they reassured her that they were going to be there if something happened. That was all that Samantha needed. It was time to gear up and head into the unknown. She wore a mask since there seemed to be a lot of dust in the air of the other room, plus, if someone was living there, you don't want to meet them face to face with no mask. Although I think COVID-19 would be the least of her problems if someone was there. Now it's the time of truth. The biggest concern that was on Samantha's mind wasn't if someone was there or any of the logical thoughts. Her mind was on a different thing. She was wondering if her hips would fit through the hole. Of all the things that could go wrong at that moment, her first thought was if she could fit. Not exactly what you would call logical. But she decided that the only way to find out was by trying. She was about to get into the hole, and the video ends abruptly. Don't worry, she gave to the people part 3. Now we find Samantha doing all the necessary steps before going to the other side. First of all, she needed a place to step after she got to the other side. The hole was a bit too high for Samantha and especially on the other side. Whoever designed this place didn't do it for people to cross over. Although a hole behind a mirror should exist in the first place. But that's our humble opinion. She found a bucket that she could throw to the other side to function as a step for her. Everything was ready for Samantha. All she needed was the courage to cross the hole. She decided that to just go there without any support wasn't very logical. She looked around for a bit and then she chose the best companion for this dangerous mission. A hammer. Her friends started laughing when they saw her with the hammer. It wasn't like she could actually hurt anyone. But for sure it made her feel safer. John added the hilarious comment, "Mean it while you swing it." Hilarious because he knew that she couldn't do it. This situation had made everyone laugh nervously. They had no idea what was about to come. The last thing was a flashlight attached to a headband. All things ready. Samantha started climbing through the wall. After a few failed attempts to go head first, she decided that the best way to go about it was leg body leg. This had its own difficulties, but with patience and a bit of moral support from her friends, she managed to step one foot on the other side. The problem was the other foot. She might have stepped on the other side, but she needed somewhere to hold on to if she wanted to get her other foot inside. After a bit of panicking and looking around, she found a pipe that she assumed was strong enough to support her weight. She was correct. After a lot of struggle, she was finally on the other side. It felt like a parallel dimension. She was about to get the surprise of her life. She used her phone to record the whole experience, so we know she wasn't getting crazy and hallucinating things. That was the only way that someone could believe what actually happened. There wasn't just an empty room that was behind the mirror. It was more, much more. There was another apartment. Samantha was moving deeper into this new apartment while at the same time showing to the camera everything she was seeing. The apartment looked abandoned, completely empty of furniture. Some of the walls were destroyed so much that you could even see the pipes. Samantha was freaking out. She was narrating what she was seeing back to her friends so they get an idea of what was going on. Things started getting weirder when she saw a couple of big trash bags full of stuff. She decided not to open them, but she was still keeping an eye on them. She was determined to explore deeper into this apartment. One thing she found made her worry. She found an air freshener weirdly placed on a ledge. The apartment was so big that it even had a staircase on the inside. She was getting scared that the apartment was still occupied by someone. She was thinking that the best thing she could do was leave. But her curiosity got the better of her. She did something else instead. She asked loudly if there was anybody there. Still armed with her hammer. She was ready for anything, although, in reality, she admitted that she had no idea what she would have done if someone answered her call. Probably she would run away screaming. But thankfully nobody answered. After a bit of searching around, one thing was clear. The apartment was abandoned. At least for now, whoever stayed there had gone away. Samantha didn't know if the people had left when they heard her coming or long before that, but one thing was for sure. She didn't want to have any new roommates, even if they were good people. The thought that anyone could access her apartment through this hole made her consider moving out for a little bit. But there was another solution. She finally found the door of this strange apartment, and thankfully it seemed to be in a good condition. Not only that, there was a lock she could use. After locking the door, she felt a little bit safer and decided she had done enough exploration for one day. Back she goes to her apartment, safe and sound. At the ending of the video, she commented on what her next step would be. Of course, she was going to call the landlord. He was going to hear a crazy story about a hole in the wall of the apartment. Who knows if he had any idea that the hole was there. Either way, Samantha wanted this hole gone. Not only for the cold, but the most obvious reasons, her personal safety. For sure he was going to get a shock. Not bigger than the one that Samantha got. We are grateful that Samantha shared this amazing story with her followers. Thousands of people have commented on the videos, expressing their surprise with the incident. It might sound curious, but the majority of the people were not focused on the danger of the event, but on something completely different. Most of the people in her comments were saying that they wish they could find a hole like that in their apartment. Imagine renting a 30m2 apartment and then finding out that you actually have a lot more space than you think so. Most people would think that's a bargain. Especially for the people living in New York, where everything seems to be so expensive. The popularity of this video skyrocketed and Samantha was called on television to comment about the incident. She was asked why she thinks many people are drawn to it. Her main thought was that people were dreaming of having the same problem for themselves. That might as well be true.